One of the first safety precautions to take is for operators to wear appropriate personal protective equipment, or PPE, when using manual pallet jacks. Operators should also wear eye protection and safety-toed footwear like steel-toed boots to prevent injuries from being run over with the wheel of the jack, materials falling, or stubbing a toe. Gloves can help reduce the risk of cuts, bruises, and blisters when operating a manual pallet jack. It's also important that, like other machinery, manual pallet jacks are maintained properly, as using a damaged or defective pallet jack can lead to serious injury. Before using a manual pallet jack, it should be thoroughly inspected for any cracks or signs of wear. The rubber wheels can become worn over time, which can lead to unstable loads and poor handling, which can cause loads to fall. Now, this can be bad for the items being transported and even worse for the operator. The hydraulic lift system should also be checked for signs of leakage before loading the manual pallet jack. The lever used to lift and lower the forks should function smoothly in the raise, lower, and neutral positions. Check the forks themselves for any debris that may have gotten stuck. The forks should be able to operate freely and may need to be cleaned out periodically. It's good practice to check all of these things before each shift. When using a manual pallet jack, there are some guidelines for safe handling. First, check the floor along the route to be taken to make sure there aren't any cracks, bumps, or imperfections that could interfere with a smooth transport. Never stand so your feet are under the forks of the pallet jack, and never exceed the pallet jack's manufacturer's load capacity. And once moving, use a spotter to help if the view is obstructed. But no one should ever ride on the load or the forks of the manual pallet jack. If there's an incline, push, don't pull the pallet jack to reduce the risk of being run over by the jack. Remember, a force in motion tends to stay in motion even if you're in the way. Be alert around corners to avoid pinch points or collisions from taking a corner too sharply. When the manual pallet jacks aren't in use, they should be stored where they're out of the way of being a tripping hazard, blocking exits, or blocking emergency equipment like fire extinguishers. The forks of the pallet jack should always be completely lowered when not in use, and the handle should be in an upright position. Release the hydraulic pressure to prevent damage to the hydraulic pump, lines, and cylinder, and extend the life and safety of the hydraulic system. Certain safety procedures should be followed when using manual pallet jacks. Many warehouse accidents involve the improper use of equipment like manual pallet jacks. Some of the most common pallet jack-related injuries are back strain, hand crushes, and foot strain or fractures. To prevent these, it's important to follow pallet jack safety procedures. First, never operate a manual pallet jack until trained to do so. Make sure the pallet jack is in good working condition and verify the load limits before use. If you have any concerns or find faulty equipment, notify the supervisor immediately and don't use the manual pallet jack until the problems are corrected. OSHA recommends limiting the necessary force needed to lift a load to less than 50 pounds. Now make sure the load is centered on the forks before lifting. Never try to lift a load with one fork. Use two hands when pumping the lever of a manual pallet jack to lift or lower a load. Ask for assistance when moving a heavy load or when transporting on a grade or slippery surface. The operating handle should be in the neutral position when moving the manual pallet jack. The pallet jack should only be lifted as high as necessary to safely transport the load. Now, it's recommended that it not be lifted more than 1 inch from the ground. If it's necessary to go more than 1 inch, raise the forks as needed and then lower them back down when safe to do so. Remember that manual pallet jacks are for work purposes only, and any horseplay, including riding on them, is extremely dangerous. The improper use of manual pallet jacks can lead to serious injury. This is why proper training and use are important when operating them.